doing a first stop after just 30 minutes for two reasons. Number one, I wasn't sure that the recording of the data was on, so I wanted to check that. And number two, it's raining and quite miserable, meaning the consumption is a bit higher than I thought it should be. And we started with 80%. So just a quick talk up, which is gonna add maybe 1 or 2 minutes, just the time to get out and back onto the motorway. We are in Ioniq Rally. Of course, not very many people here at this time of the day. This is stop number 2 already, Ioniq Barral, and this is the real life 1,000 kilometer challenge, meaning had to change connector. It's charging now, but there was an error immediately after it started, so had to change spots there. So initially we were planning for 7 stops. We've already done 1 additional stop. In theory, this one we would charge all the way to 94%, but I think I'd rather do 1 more stop. So it's still raining outside, 14 degrees Celsius, which for late July in northern France is not great. This is the Hyundai Charge My Hyundai card, and it's pretty much the go-to card when we're traveling. Why? Well, because first of all, we've got the Ioniq subscription on this card, and other than that, even if you're going with anything else, that's going to be very good. Now, the second card I have is this one, and that's the Electroverse Electric Juice card from Octopus. And that's a very, very good card to have as well. It's going to take you on all the different kind of smaller chargers in each and every regional area, and it's very cheap typically. In fact, some of them, they are actually free, which is hard to explain because it shouldn't be. These are the 2 cards with which you can probably do most of your travel. One thing to consider when we talk about 1,000 kilometer challenge is that we've had this car for 18 months, and this is today the very first opportunity to test the drive over such a long distance. I think it plays to the fact that it's very rare that people will need to do this kind of distance. There's a whole range, a whole spectrum of people who will want to have a car that can do a few 100 kilometers at a time, and then they'll spend a day somewhere and then they'll come back. And for that, many EVs are absolutely fine. We are at the 3-hour mark and we've done 133 miles. That's about 214 kilometers, which over 3 hours means we are doing something like 71 kilometers an hour. And if I remove the deduction for the playing with the phones and looking for the data and all of that, more like 75 kilometers. Now, one thing to note is that this car, even if you optimize the charging and only stay within the 10 to 80% and go at the right speeds, which is 110 to 125, then you are going to be able to achieve maybe 76, 77 kilometers an hour. So we are a little bit below that, but the weather has not been very good, and there's been a couple of minor glitches, let's say, but we're doing okay. I think we are broadly there. It's not very fast, there's no question, but equally, with a diesel car in the past, we would do something like 85 kilometers an hour would be typical, given the stops for having lunch and doing various things. So yeah, it's a bit slower, there's no denying, but let's remember we're doing this on a 28 kilowatt hours car, and that's not much for a battery. One of the things to know if you're driving in France on the motorways is that there are tolls, and they are not cheap. You're going to be paying good money, in fact much more for the use of the motorway per kilometer than you will use in electricity. But they are much safer, of course, the motorways, and you can drive at up to 130 kilometers an hour. Now, the one thing that you may have noticed here is we've got this little device, and that's why we were able to go through the gate at speed up to 30 kilometers an hour through the gates. So that saves you quite a bit of time and hassle because, of course, the steering wheel is on the right hand side on a British car, and also hassle in that sometimes there is quite a bit of queue on the tolls, and that's a queue you typically don't quite get as much if you're going to be driving through those particular lanes. So a couple of benefits: you pay €2 per month that you use it, but I think if you're going to be driving a few 100 kilometers like that, it's just a lot of convenience for not very much money. So I think it comes recommended. This is Ioniq Champfleury. We're on our 4th stop already because we're going with more stops than planned, given the wind, given the rain, and given we are trying to not go beyond 80% charge. That's the way you can optimize, by avoiding to go beyond 80% where it actually slows down quite a bit. So we are doing a few more stops. We're on an average of about 73 kilometers an hour so far, 3 hours and a half into this little trip of ours. So this is looking good. This is not particularly lightning fast, but this is okay. So one thing to note is that we are going to be using quite a few Ioniq chargers. Again, we've got the subscription for that. And it's quite typical to see a few cars, but not for them to be that used. And the reason for that is that we're on a Sunday. It's the second day after the public holiday has started, but it is quite usual to have a few of those available. I'm not expecting anything different, although we're going to be going down south towards Lyon, where things can get quite busy on the A6. When you're charging to 80% only, it can go very quickly. That means sometimes the folks in the car are not back before the car is ready. So these are a lot of small stops, and it can work. It depends on your preferences, really. We're just 9 minutes into it and we're already on 55%. So this is going quickly. We're nearly ready to go again. It's 11:30 and 3% more before we go. Now, we've been driving for about 5 hours and 30 minutes, and we've done 240 miles today. That makes it 71 kilometers an hour of average, but we've just recharged. So we are still there or thereabouts. Again, we've lost a little bit of time at some point, but not too bad. Now the battery is cooking, however. The average temperature is 45 Celsius. So we are now putting on the AC and all at the back. So there's quite a lot going through here. Now, saying that, I'm not sure it makes much of a difference, frankly, because the maximum temperature is still 49. But we're about to go again, and it's still decent speeds on the charge, so no worries there.